Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our second Rural Renaissance webinar of 2025. We are so grateful that you've joined us for today's program celebrating the 100th home energy efficiency upgrade through Groundswell's Save on Utilities long-term or SOL program. Before we introduce you to our wonderful panelists today, who will share valuable insights into the SOL program and the impacts it has on the families we serve, I am thrilled to share some exciting news regarding this November's Rural Renaissance Roadshow. The 2025 Rural Renaissance Roadshow will bring together more than 200 local leaders focused on rural resilience in energy, food, water, and healthy housing systems. I am thrilled to share for the first time that Andrew Freer, director of Auburn University's acclaimed Rural Studio, will kick off the conference with an opening keynote address on resilience by design, the theme of this year's roadshow. Register now to get our early bird pricing and learn more about Groundswell's Rural Renaissance Roadshow at ruralrenaissance.com. I'm AJ, manager of rural events here at Groundswell, and it's my pleasure to introduce you to our general counsel, Deitra Crawley, who will be facilitating our conversation today. Deitra, thank you for being here. The floor is yours.
To celebrate a joyful occasion in that we are celebrating the 100th home in Alabama that has been a part of the SOL program, Save Long Term. Groundswell is excited to be here, and we're excited to have you here. And I am thrilled to be moderating this esteemed panel who will share with you exactly how this all unfolded. I will pass the baton at this point, a little round robin of the panelists so you would get to know them personally, starting with Mayor Jamie Hurd of Lanett, Alabama.
Deitra, I think Mayor Hurd may have had a slight technical issue, so let's jump straight to Will.
Okay.
Hey, my name is Will Scarborough. I'm with Carlisle Service Company, and we're one of the general contractors that's been working with Groundswell the last few years on these houses in Georgia and Alabama.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Andrew Robison. I'm the Director of Southeast Regional Market Development with Groundswell. I've been helping support SOL in its expansion, not only in Georgia, but into new markets in Alabama as well. So very excited about this conversation today.
Waiting for Mayor Hurd. AJ, as he I believe Mayor Hurd has joined us. Mayor Hurd, would you please introduce yourself?
Yes. Okay. My name is Jamie Hurd, representing the city of Lanett.
Thank you. Thank you all. So we'll just jump right in. I'll start and pass the baton over to Andrew. And so, Andrew, first question for you is, Groundswell has hit an exciting milestone, 100 homes upgraded through the SOL program. To kick us off, Andrew, can you explain what we mean by energy efficiency repairs and upgrades?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, thank you all for being here. Excited to have a great discussion about Soul and kind of the progress that we've had over the last couple of years and expanding it across the region. So as many of y'all know, Soul started off as a partnership with the city of LaGrange and its local utility. We were tapped to help pilot this new idea of offering energy efficiency upgrades as an opportunity to help reduce electricity bills for residents of the city of LaGrange. That program then quickly grew to be able to serve a couple other counties in Georgia, including areas outside of the city in Troup County, Georgia, as well as Heard and Harris counties. And then now I think, we're able to celebrate this 100th home completed under Soul, which just so happens to also be our first home completed in Alabama. So I think we'll have the chance to kind of dig into, how we were able to achieve that a little bit later. But I also just wanted to very specifically thank Will for being one of our key partners in actually getting the work done. It's one thing from Groundswell's perspective to bring this program together. It's another to actually get the work done. So very thankful for Will and his company for helping to do that. And also thanking Mayor Heard for helping us in piloting this project in Alabama as well. I think this is marking a really good step in the right direction for the program. But quickly, just to get to your question, Deitra, I think when we're talking about repairs and upgrades in homes, it always looks a little bit different depending on where we're working. I think to start off, the thing that we often want to first address is the health and well-being and safety of the home. In the area that we work, in particular in West Georgia and East Alabama, there's a lot of historical homes. And, it doesn't matter who you are. If you have an older home, it needs some kind of work one way or another. So oftentimes we start off working to address a lot of the types of repairs that are just necessary before we can do anything related to energy efficiency. So that could be doing roof repairs, patching holes in the wall, stabilizing flooring, addressing water damage or mold. If older homes have lead paint, for instance, that would need to be taken out before anything could be done. It's not super common, but every now and then you bump up against asbestos. And the important thing with all of this is not only to address, health and safety concerns for the homeowner, but these are often common barriers to accessing other program funds. These smaller home repairs may have prevented work through other energy efficiency programs to be done. And so if we have the funds and the ability to do that, we like to start off with those health and safety repairs. It also just helps to improve quality of life for folks and helps people stay in their houses for the long term, which we think is super valuable. But in thinking of kind of the bigger question around energy efficiency, we really see it as a key resource for helping to reduce electricity bills for those who need it most. There's a lot of different approaches that we take to which measures make sense in a particular house. And as I said, it's kind of a different case for every home, depending on the size and the number of people. But this may, start with something very simple, like, replacing older light bulbs with LED bulbs. It's a very cheap and effective way to reduce electricity consumption. Also identifying very clear opportunities to patch and seal, door frames and windows and kind of other places where air might be escaping from the house. And from there, we kind of address some of the bigger scale things like insulation. How well is the attic insulated? Does the wall insulation need to be addressed? Is there any basement that needs to be considered or any crawl space that needs to be considered from an insulation perspective? All of this being done just to ensure that air isn't leaking and that the home can maintain a comfortable temperature year round. And then from there, we kind of look to the biggest components of the house from an electrical perspective. And in the South, that often ends up being the HVAC system. So does the air conditioner need to be replaced? Does the water heater need attention? Are there leaks within the ventilation system that need to be addressed? And then finally, one thing that often kind of gets overlooked in energy efficiency is windows. So we're talking about older houses, while older windows often have a nice, look to them, they often end up causing a lot of leaks throughout the house and just often need to be replaced due to age. So all of those components kind of work together, both the health and safety and the energy efficiency, to both improve quality of life as well as address high utility bills.
Thank you, Andrew. And so, given that you've explained what the improvements are and the benefits, let's hear from Mayor Hurd from the community perspective and even from his perspective, how these improvements have benefited the community. We're excited that Lanett, Alabama is the 100th home celebration. It's personal to me, given that I was reared in Lanett, Alabama, so it's affectionately love for me and for my town. But Mayor Hurd, I want to thank you for your leadership in partnering with Groundswell and just for being here today to talk about the beneficiaries of this work done. Can you share a little bit about your partnership with Groundswell and what motivated you to get involved? And then how has the community responded to this work?
Thank you. Lanett is just happy to be a part of this program. I think so far we've had about 6 homes to be approved through Soul. And like Andrew said, is from replacing windows, HVAC system, and Lanett to be a part of this. And we are hoping to continue to be a part of it. The seniors are really looking forward to it because it's something that they really need.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Hurd. Could you share a little bit about how your community partnered with Groundswell and what motivated you to get involved? I know you've talked a little bit about that because there is a dire need of the seniors to have home repairs and upgrades. But could you mention a little bit about how you partnered with Groundswell?
Sure, we got involved over a year ago, I think. I had a meeting with Leon and Miss Deitra. And after they explained the program to me, I was excited because I knew in this area it was a great need for home improvements. And of course, after we talked, I talked to the council members about it, and they were excited. So I had Leon and Miss Crawley to come and present it to the council, and we just been moving ever since. When the citizens heard about it, the phone never stopped ringing. They were calling, wanted their name on the list because they worked hard when they were able to work, but now they on a fixed income, and some of the repairs that they need, they just can't afford it. So we are looking forward to continuing to help the citizen in Lanett.
Thank you, Mayor Hurd. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so now that we've heard what the SOUL program does, let's dive a little deeper into the flow here. We have with us Will Scarborough, who's introduced himself. Through your work, Will, with Carlisle Service Company, you're on the front lines of these repairs. Can you describe what kinds of upgrades you're seeing and what makes this work meaningful to you?
Sure. Yeah, I'm from this area, from Harris County, but obviously LaGrange and Lanett and Valley are close by. My wife, her family's from Valley, and worked in the mills, similar to your dad. And in terms of what we're doing, I mean, Andrew described a lot of it. We're doing a variety of things, which I think is probably the best part about my work with Groundswell so far. I've done some other work with different nonprofit groups, and a lot of times we're constrained to doing very particular things. And that may not always be what the homeowner needs or what the home needs right now. As Andrew talked about, you can put a new HVAC system in, which is great. But if your windows are falling apart and you have holes in your floor and you have no insulation in your attic, then it is helping, but it is not helping nearly as much as it could help. And so in my work with Groundswell, a lot of what I think has been good in working with Groundswell is we've had a lot more latitude to evaluate each home individually and then take the funding that we have and apply it in the manner that is best, that is going to give the homeowner the best outcome, both for energy efficiency and for health and safety in their home. A lot of these houses do have energy efficiency needs.
That's great.
But a lot of them have safety needs. We worked with a lady in West Point, for instance, who had a giant hole in her floor. When you opened the door, her door was rotting out. She had a giant hole with a piece of plywood over it. She was disabled. It was dangerous. She could have fallen through it at any point. Her windows were rotting. She had some structural issues, and we were able to use the funds to address those and also to add some HVAC to her house. So we got both. We were able to make her house much more livable. We were able to repair some structural things that were going to undermine the value of her home and potentially make it unlivable. And we were able to add an HVAC system, which increased the energy efficiency along with the windows. It's just one example, but I would say the ability to do a variety of things on each home, and we're not locked into just doing HVACs or just doing roofs, has made the program a lot better than other ones that I've worked with previously.
Thank you, Will, and we certainly appreciate the work that you and Carlisle have committed to doing. Thank you for sharing. So now that we've heard the deep dive on the flow of how this all works, let's hear from Andrew and hear about how the work is funded.
Yeah,
Andrew?
absolutely. I'm sure a lot of y'all are kind of wondering how we are able to do this work. There's a lot that goes into the funding, and I think the beauty of SOL in particular and our approach is that it layers a bunch of different funding sources on top of each other in order to overcome some of those common barriers that hold up other programs. For instance, there's a couple of federal programs that have limits on how much money you can spend on roof repairs, for instance. And if that's the number one barrier that they need to overcome in order to start any energy efficiency work, then that house is never going to get work done. So we as an organization are able to unlock various funds, both through our push to go after federal money, as well as our continued work with philanthropic partners. But we want to ensure that, particularly for our seniors and those that are disabled and don't have the resources to overcome these kind of key upgrades and repairs, are able to get that through a very simple and easy participation mechanism under SOL. And of course, there are instances where house just may be beyond repair, whether it's just too old or the cost to repair it just doesn't make sense. But we don't leave those folks behind either. They're often referred to other programs that might be able to find them improved living situation one way or another. But just quickly to go back to kind of the history of SOL and how we got started and where we are now. As I mentioned, it started off as a pilot program with the city of LaGrange, and that pilot was funded through some block funding that the city had received. The city was very interested in addressing some of the long-standing housing concerns within the general area through this block grant, program, and so Groundswell was tapped to help design and lead a program to demonstrate the benefit of energy efficiency as a mechanism for helping to reduce electricity bills. So initially, we actually used the block grant funds through on-bill financing through the city utility to be able to have homeowners finance the improvements through the savings that they would receive. So for instance, let's say, we invested X amount and then the homeowner would then, finance through on-bill financing kind of the remainder. A typical situation might be, the homeowner saves $100 a month on their utility bill, but then pays $30 a month towards paying off those repairs. And that not only helped us to serve more households through the program with the dollars that we had, but it also, through a pilot mechanism, helped us to learn how to better improve the program and unlock more funding sources to be able to help more communities across the region. So from there, we actually unlocked the opportunity to work with some of USDA's housing preservation grants. So those funds allowed us to do very similar home repairs and upgrades outside of LaGrange city limits. So serving those in USDA rural designated areas, which included areas within Tripp County and Heard County to the north and Harris County to the south. And we have operated under the USDA housing preservation grants for a number of years in Georgia. And now recently we're able to unlock some funds in Alabama to do the same work, which is how we've gotten involved with Mayor Heard, as well as been able to pilot new initiatives in Alabama as well. So as y'all could probably understand, every house kind of has a different approach to what funding stack makes sense for it. More broadly, we are utilizing three main sources of funding across the board, three categories of funding, I should say. The first being federal program funds. So as I mentioned, we've worked with USDA housing preservation grants, as well as the block grant received by the city of LaGrange. But in addition, we've been working to go after some of the federal tax credits that are available for specific HVAC upgrades and things like that, home insulation. We've also partnered with several entities across the region, including Community Action for Improvement in LaGrange, which is the local weatherization assistance program and light heat provider for the region. So, there are instances where we could perform some degree of repairs and then refer them to the local weatherization provider to actually do some additional energy efficiency work through their federally funded program. Another avenue that we've been actively exploring recently, now that it's launched, is the home energy rebate program and home electrification rebates through the state of Georgia. Most states throughout the country have received an allocation for home energy rebates, which in the state of Georgia can be up to $16,000 per household, which is pretty impactful. So we've been working with local contractors and other entities around the region to ensure that residents in Georgia can benefit from those programs. And similarly, while the state of Alabama is currently working on, piloting their project, just ensuring that we have the resources on the ground to actively utilize them. And then lastly, on the federal side, I wanted to point out that we were a recipient of one of EPA's community change grants, which was for $20 million, which is slated to fund the upgrade and repair of 500 homes in 5 counties in East Alabama and 1 county in West Georgia. And just, for the sake of transparency in our conversation, we have received a termination letter as part of some of the broader restructuring efforts at EPA that they're undergoing right now related to federal programming. But we're continuing to stand firm within this work and are confident that we'll be able to continue the work and get our funds back and, just ensure that we're able to do so under the program and its objectives. But then secondly, I wanted to touch on how in many areas around the region, we're able to tap into utility rebates as well. So again, depending on where we work, we can utilize different sources of funding. In areas that are served by Georgia Power, for instance, there are a lot of helpful rebates that can help underwrite the cost of certain upgrades and repairs, as well as a couple of the local cooperatives. And then lastly, we also rely on philanthropic funds to help cover some of those gaps that aren't immediately covered by federal funds. So for instance, you can imagine, some houses just have like a unique situation and need a little bit more money to get over the finish line. So we've been able to work with several local philanthropic partners to help enable that work, as well as entities like Habitat for Humanity who might have specialized knowledge and resources and funding to perform one element of home repair. Yeah, I think that mainly covers it.
Wow, that's multiple, sounds like multiple partners, funding sources all come together to pull this off. I'm going to circle back to you in a second and ask, how can people get involved? And how can communities get involved? But before I ask that question, I want to hear from Mayor Hurd. Clearly, these upgrades are changing lives in communities. We've seen it in Lanett, Alabama. Looking ahead, Mayor Hurd, where do you see this work going in the next 5 years? And I'll preface that with this story, given that my father served in that seat, Mayor Crawley, from 2004 to 2015. We saw a lot of need for improvement of homes, as well as the reduction of a need for the reduction of utility bills. That was more of a change back then. But now that we have these programs in Lanett under your leadership, Mayor Hurd, I'm excited and optimistic about people getting the help they need, particularly our seniors and our retirees who are on fixed to the economy during those years when they were able to. So where do you see this work going in the next 5 years? And do you anticipate the SOUL program expanding into more communities surrounding and beyond?
Sure. Within the next 5 years, I think this program here would make a huge.
I think we're having.
Will not only the value of the homes will go up, and I just feel like people will take care of their community better if they have nice living conditions. And I'm just looking forward to many, many more homes being improved by this. We even today we get calls almost every day, almost asking about the program. So it's something that the citizens are looking forward to, because like otherwise, their homes never get improved because they just can't afford to do it. So I think this program here would make a huge difference within the city of Lanett. And of course, we have the city of Valley Lafayette close by. They are a part of this, and they are looking forward to the improvement as well. So it's something that is very well needed in this area. And it will, citizens struggle, as Ms. Crawley said, trying to pay their utilities. And so many times they feel like our utility rate is high, but it's not. It's just that because of the much needed work in their homes, of course, their utility is high, but it's not because of the rate, it's because of the conditions of the homes. So I think this program here will really help the citizen of Lanett and surrounding area.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Hurd. And I would think as well, in addition to the homeowners, in addition to that, the local businesses, the small businesses too, have an opportunity to participate. If you want to elaborate a little bit on that, the recent RFI that went out and pulled for a call for contractors to participate.
Sure. It will. If we get this program and course, it would bring jobs to the area, and hopefully some of the local contractors would be able to get work. And of course, if they get the job, then of course that would help the economy in Lanett and the surrounding area.
Yes, indeed. Thank you. Okay, so now, Andrew, circling back to you, how can people get involved?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think either AJ or Alicia will pop a link into the chat, but for the most part right now, as part of our efforts to expand Soul beyond LaGrange, we've been undergoing the process of pre-enrolling potential participants just to ensure that we can go through the process of income verification, just checking their home to do a quick, visual inspection. But we're right now gathering a list of potential homes to serve under Soul so that, as the program continues to develop and as we unlock more funding sources, we have a list of people ready to go. So if you know of any people who are interested in participating in Soul or benefiting from Soul, feel free to reach out to any of the Groundswell staff or any of the information that's provided in the chat, because I think while right now we serve a very specific geographic area, we're always exploring opportunities to serve additional communities as well. Again, like I've mentioned a few times, every place is a little bit different. So, while there may be this one pot of money that can serve this community here, there may be other opportunities in, other communities where there's a specific resources that might be able to deliver the benefits of Soul to other people as well. So whether you're interested from, signing up as a Soul beneficiary, or if you're interested for your community to benefit, please feel free to reach out to the Groundswell staff, and we'll be happy to talk more about it.
Thank you, Andrew. So I believe it's been placed in the chat how you can get involved, and we look forward to hearing from you. I would like to circle back to Will on this question. Will, what has been the most surprising or meaningful moment in this work for you? And I ask you this question because you are hands-on, working, engaging with homeowners, and seeing the conditions. And you've touched a little bit upon that earlier in your first question answered. But if you could just elaborate a little bit on what was the most surprising or meaningful moment in this work for you, that would be great.
I don't know about the most surprising. I mean, I've done residential and commercial contracting my whole life, and I've been in a lot of houses. I know there's a lot of people, especially in valley places where industry has dried up and you have a lot of elderly people. Homes are hard to maintain. It takes a lot of money, especially after COVID. Prices have increased dramatically on pretty much everything, materials, labor, and then just basic necessities. It is a little surprising sometimes to see some of the conditions that people live in, especially, I don't want to say in America, but I mean, you would be surprised at what people live in condition wise. Again, going back to the lady that I talked about earlier, you have a giant hole in your floor. Her bathrooms didn't work. She had no HVAC system. I mean, and that's in a, just a regular town in Georgia. And I would say maybe the most meaningful, we had a gentleman who was not a lot older than me, maybe early 40s. And he had been in a major accident, and he was missing both of his legs, and had a hard time getting around. And his shower that he had that they had built was not for. It was supposed to be an ADA shower. It didn't work right. Water was not positively flowing towards the drain. There were a litany of problems, but he wasn't able to use it very much, and he was mostly bedridden. And we were able to redo the shower and do things in his house that made it a lot easier for him to shower by himself and get in and out of his house, because his ramp on the outside had rotted and fallen apart. So, you're talking about at that point somebody who's halfway through their life who was stuck inside. And that may not always be, we go back to, energy efficiencies. We did do things in terms of fixing holes in his house, and we did do things energy efficiency wise with some different fixtures, but we were able to get money to improve the living conditions of somebody that otherwise has no realistic chance at being able to do that given his state. So I would say that was probably one of the more meaningful ones that we had done. But I mean, helping all of these people, again, most of who we deal with are elderly. They're on fixed income. They worked hard their whole lives. Many of them in the mills, like I had relatives that did in Thomaston and other places. And just because of the cost of things, they're having to pick between, and Mayor Hurd's talked about this, having to choose between getting medications they need and fixing their houses. And when you put off certain things on your house for, a year or two, it's not that bad. When you put them off for, 8, 9, 10 years, it turns into a snowball effect. And by the time it's snowballed, many people just don't have the means or the ability to recover from it. So those would be the most meaningful things that I think that we've done so far in this, in terms of helping people.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you. Panelists, I want to give time for the viewers to pose questions as well and answer questions. So, AJ, I will defer to you. If we have more time for another question for the panelists, I can take that. Or are there any questions from the audience at this moment in the chat that we can pose?
Yeah, I see this question from Chad related to the modifying the program to help a different demographic. Just to kind of take a step back and give you all an idea of like what the qualifications are for SOL now. Typically we enroll people based on income. So for the most part, we utilize 200% of the federal poverty line as the income threshold, just to be in line with a lot of the federal funding sources, which just helps to streamline and set a consistent income line across the program and funding sources. But within that program, we tend to work with a lot of seniors, a lot of veterans, a lot of folks living on fixed income. So with respect to serving a different demographic, I think it depends on what you mean by that. But I think, the goal of our program across the board is to address the lack of affordability in the energy space. There shouldn't be an instance where someone in a 2-bedroom home is spending $900 on their utility bill every month. And I think in terms of community outreach, there's lots of different opportunities to ensure that we're reaching everyone. There are often communities within communities that have their own communication networks, whether there might be a language barrier or the community is more insulated for whatever reason. So I think there's a lot of opportunities for us to continue to market the program to different people to ensure that we're continuing to serve kind of a geographically and ethnically and to some degree income diverse set of participants. But for the most part, I think, just given the localized need under the program thus far, we've not officially focused on seniors, but it just has happened to be mostly seniors for the most part.
Okay. We have one other question in the chat. What advice would you give to other communities interested in launching a similar program? Andrew, I think I
can start us off. Yeah, my advice is I have a few pieces of advice. I would first kind of think about what's the profile of the community. For a lot of more rural communities, there are great opportunities with USDA, for instance, not only to get specific funds that are dedicated towards home repairs for rural communities, whether it's the USDA housing preservation grants, but also loan products. So there's low interest or zero interest loans that help to finance energy efficiency improvements. And then inversely, if you're an urban community, there's often dedicated philanthropic institutions that are very specifically focused on community development. And I think you can make the case that, addressing very specific parts of home repair would then unlock additional funds, whether through federal programs or utility rebates or what have you. So I also think, just thinking about what other localized resources are on the ground, are there any city dollars or utility dollars that could be applied toward this? Our strategy as an organization has been to focus to some degree on communities served by rural electric cooperatives and municipal utilities, not only because that offers a degree of flexibility in program design and planning, but also those often tend to be areas of high need as well. So happy to chat with anyone after this if there's specific questions about replicating the program in other communities. But I think there's a lot of opportunities to help address some of these challenges through layering funding sources like Groundswell has.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Another question, can you speak to the outreach and engagement strategy with households to participate, particularly in how the tariff financing was implemented?
Sure. We as an organization employ a dedicated community engagement associate who is, very ingrained in Troup County, where we base our sole operations. So he's been incredibly helpful in helping to reach different segments of the community, whether through his personal relationships or, through working through other entities. Like, as I mentioned, we work with the local weatherization and light heat provider in the area as well. So there's a steady flow of people coming through those programs that may not be able to participate for whatever reason, who could then be referred to us and vice versa. And also, partners like Mayor Hurd, who receive phone calls quite often of people looking for some assistance. And so, we're able to utilize a network of relationships on the ground to get very specific referrals. And then in speaking of the on-bill financing component, I'm not necessarily the greatest expert on like how that was specifically implemented. But I think the important takeaway is that this particular program required a strong relationship with the local utility in order to design mechanisms for the dollars that were paid through utility bills to then go towards the payment of the upgrades through the program that weren't covered by block grant funds. Other than that, I'm not exactly sure like how exactly the financing was handled behind the scenes, but if there are specific questions around that, feel free to reach out to me and I'm happy to get them answered for you.
Mm-hmm. And I'll toss it to Mayor Hurd to follow on with that question. Mayor Hurd, particularly if you could speak to the outreach and engagement strategy that the city of Lanett has with households to participate, just the participation, getting involved. How has the city done that?
What we did in the city of Lanett, we announced it in council meetings. We put it on our website. It was announced in churches, got information out to different civic organizations. And, once the information got out, people started calling. And of course, they could either call the city or they could call my personal cell number. But we just used whatever method we could to get the word out. And we had over 100 people to sign up for this program.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Hurd, and thank you, Michael, for that question. Finally, how does energy efficiency connect to economic resilience in rural areas? And I'll circle up with Andrew and then end it with Mayor Hurd.
Yeah, I would say Will made pretty good points on this earlier. When households are facing really high utility bills, there's often difficult choices that need to be made. We find, that people will forego spending in other categories in order to keep the lights on and keep the heat on during the winter and keep the AC on during the summer. So, in just thinking about the direct economic impact to families, if we can cut people's electricity bills in half or even by 20% through energy efficiency improvements, that frees up money in the monthly budget to go towards living their lives in other ways, whether it's food or medicine or clothing or just living their lives, right? So there's the kind of direct household impact. But then if you do that at scale, if dozens of households are facing similar challenges, and then those burdens are alleviated to some degree through energy efficiency, then you're then freeing up more money in the local economy to just be spent at local businesses and just on other things. So I think additionally, improving local housing quality has knock-on effects to making the community more attractive for outside investment. We know that the area that we work in has a long history of manufacturing, and to some degree that's coming back through other channels, for instance, like the Kia plant in West Point, Georgia. And so when companies are looking to establish companies in the region, they're looking at the local housing stock and seeing what's available to a potential workforce who might relocate there. So doing energy efficiency improvements uplifts the profile of the community more broadly and makes it more attractive for outside investment as well.
Mm-hmm. Will, I'll pass the baton to you and then to Mayor Hurd.
In terms of increasing, the economic impact of utilities, Andrew hit on it. When people are spending tons of money, and I'll give an example. When I first got married, we lived in a house that had a horrible HVAC system. We got married in the summer, and my wife called me and said it wouldn't get below 87 degrees in the house, and she had been running the air conditioning all month while I was gone to work, and we racked up like a $600 power bill and in a 500 square foot house. And there's more people doing that than you think, both heating and cooling with horrible old systems that are barely working. And so, again, all that money is going towards that. It's not going towards other things, or it's going towards that. It's going towards the basic necessities of life, and then it is not going towards upkeeping your house, upkeeping your property, spending any money, doing anything extra, spending money at restaurants or any of those other things. And so, if people are spending all their money on trying to stay hot or cold, it's 99 degrees here today, guys. It's hot. Go outside. People are going to do whatever they have to do in weather like that, or earlier this year when it was 20 degrees and snowing, to try to not to try to be comfortable. And so if all your money is going towards that and going towards basic necessities in life, it's not going towards anything else. And people's houses are going to decline, which, like Andrew said, makes your community not nearly as attractive for new people to move into or for new businesses to move into. And if you don't have additional income to spend in other places, then things like restaurants and other non-necessities in life are going to suffer.
Thank you, Will. Mayor Hurd?
Okay, and I agree with Andrew and Will because, not only will it just help with the utilities. But if the bill is lower, then those individuals who having to decide whether I get my medication or pay my utilities, if they saving, then they'll be able to get their medication, which hopefully will extend their life. Because if you don't take your medicine, then you're gonna have issues. Also, if they have money left, because so many of the citizens in Lanett, they are having to take care of their grandkids. So, the grandkids are not exposed to things because the grandparents can't afford it. Like for us, going to McDonald's is nothing. But for some of these children in Lanett, that's a big deal to them because they don't get a chance that often to go because their parents or grandparents just can't afford it because the money going toward utilities. So this program can improve health and everything. So and I'm real pleased with it.
Great. Well, I thank you, panelists, for sharing today on improving home repairs and tying that to economic resilience and energy efficiency. Thank you for your time and your dedication and devotion to this good work. And at this moment, I'll pass it over back to AJ.
Thank you so much, Deitra. I want to echo your thanks to our panelists, Mayor Hurd, Will, Andrew. I'm so grateful for your time and expertise today. And Deitra, thank you so much for facilitating this conversation and sharing your insights with us as well. I'm also so grateful for our audience for engaging with our panelists and being here today. If you have any questions for Groundswell or our panelists after this webinar, please reach out at ruralrenaissance@groundswell.org and I will connect you with the relevant parties. We're going to continue to talk about energy efficiency upgrades at the Rural Renaissance Roadshow this November, as well as other topics such as rural access to critical resources and infrastructure, connection to community, local participation and decision-making in programs such as SOUL and beyond. Learn more about the Rural Renaissance Roadshow and register at ruralrenaissance.com. Until then, this is AJ, serving with joy, signing off, and I hope to see you this November. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.